All right, so I'm back here with my man Daniel Daly, host of the Basketball Soapbox. You can find that podcast everywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. How you doing, my guy?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I can't complain, man. I'm here.
I'm alive another day on Earth. It's a blessing, man.
Yep.
So, I want to talk to you about these conference finals so far. Last night, we saw the Mavs go up 2-0. A lot of people didn't expect that. Luka with a crazy step-back three, game winner. All the momentum appears to be on the Mavs side. First of all, let's start by, who did you have winning this series initially?
I didn't really pick anybody, but going into it, I thought Minnesota. I thought their defense would have been a little bit more different, a little bit more difficult for the Mavericks. And so far, at points in the series, it has been that way. But nope, that's not the case. That's not the case.
Okay, so you had many winning the series. So I didn't feel like that. I picked Mavs.
I thought Jaden McDaniels. I thought Rudy Gobert's rim protection, and I thought the impressive play of Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns would continue. I thought they would provide some difficult matchups for Dallas, actually. But so far, that's not the case.
So basically, when I thought about it, when I started explaining to people why I picked the Mavs to win the six, I'm like,
the Wolves were really constructed to beat the Nuggets. They weren't constructed to beat the Mavs, right? So I think it's all about matchups.
Yeah.
I feel like if the Nuggets advanced, they would have won this round. I felt like I would have put the Nuggets to beat Mavs in a 7-game series. They have nobody that can match up with Luka, unlike OKC, who had Lou Dort. Now, I think if the Nuggets advanced, I think Eric Gordon would have been great to go against Luka as opposed to Jaden McDaniels. I know he has a lot of length, but Luka's not just something by length. He's way more physical. He gets to a spot you can't see.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be a bad matchup. And the fact that, they have two guys who can literally take over a game at any point and just make some ridiculous shots. That makes it for them to overcome.
And that's pretty much been the story in the series, right? Even though Dallas has struggled early on in the series, late in games, we've seen just in the other game 2, just last night, Luka was able to take over quarter 3 and hit the game winner, and then Kyrie was big in the fourth quarter. So those guys definitely have a two-man game that is really taking over the series, and especially when Luka's a little injured, a little limped right now with that knee injury. Kyrie is stepping up. And at points in times, it was like, hey, is Kyrie going to wake up this series? Especially after the last series, everybody was questioning Kyrie. He has answered the call. He has answered the call. Like, even last night when he missed those 2 free throws, he hits a corner 3, like, right after that. So he makes up for that. He helps Luka carry the load for the offense for the Mavericks.
Absolutely. Like, I think I said before in this pod that this is the best I've seen Kyrie look since 2016, 2017 playing with LeBron. Are you surprised that they've been able to, find this balance of chemistry, Luka and Kyrie?
No, not really, because when you think about it, Luka and Jalen Brunson played well together. So now you're getting somebody who's, not to say that Jalen Brunson, who's doing great things in New York, Kyrie is a different offensive level of a player. He's a different, there's a different level. His finishing is better at the rim, even though Jalen Brunson's been great. But Kyrie's just a more polished offensive player to me. Not defensively, but offensively next to him, it's like a two-man game where it actually works because Luka kind of needs time off, right, in the offense, right? Sometimes, especially laboring this knee injury and stuff like that. But overall, those two guys have worked like a glove together. I'm just impressed by the way that they're playing together and the chemistry that they have. And a lot of the times people have tried to crap on Kyrie and stuff like that, but maybe looking at it from the outside looking in, he's matured his game. He understands that he needs somebody else next to him. It's not that much of it's not an ego thing between those two. He knows it's Luka's team and he knows his part to play. So there's no issues between the two, which is great. Which hasn't always been the case for Luka, because Luka and Porzingis didn't get along. There was rumblings about Luka and Rick Carlisle at the time not getting along. There doesn't seem to be any trouble between Jason Kidd, Kyrie Irving, and Luka Doncic. And once that's clear, then everything's good.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people who I'm not surprised at all that they've been able to
coexist.
Because we can't forget that last season they traded for Kyrie at the deadline. They depleted all their depth. They had no perimeter defenders at all.
No.
So you do that, then you essentially
Tank to secure the 10th spot in the draft. ended up being Jack Black, which looks to be a great move on their part.
It's funny because everybody killed him for that move, and it actually worked.
I mean, yeah, I'm not really surprised at all. The decision to not get the ball out of Luka's hands on that game-winning basket. Kind of indefensible, I would say. No, very indefensible. You can't.
I'm tired of watching NBA teams just let the offensive player get whatever they want. And especially as a guy that Luka has killed, has been big in those situations, I'm trying to make everybody else beat me. If Derek Lively gets a lob and ties the game for a 2, I'm fine with that. Like, at least we have another opportunity to win the game, whatever the case may be. But sitting there and watching Rudy Gobert get switched out, and then at that point in time, not scrambling to get the ball out of Luka's hands, first of all, Rudy shouldn't have even been in the game, in my opinion. Like, in that situation, he shouldn't have been in the game. But overall, whatever the case, he's out there. I understand you're trying to protect the rim, probably. And I thought about this last night. Minnesota was playing not to give up the 2 and not to win the game. Because, and especially they were saying on the broadcast, I believe Reggie Miller stand in, they were saying, hey, when you're on the road, you go for the win. And that's been the rule for a long time in the NBA. You go for the win on the road. You live with the result. They're already up 1-0. And if you miss, whatever. Okay, at least you split. You know you can beat that team in just a couple plays, whatever the case may be. But you go for the win. And once that switch happened, I'm like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? They don't need to do this. Like, and it just shows. We talk about the inexperience of the Wolves for a long time, saying, hey, Anthony Edwards is not ready. Karl Anthony Towns is not ready. That was a coaching mistake. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
It's like, you got... Goldie is arguably the best one-on-one player in the league right now, Luka. You have to really go there. Put him in that situation. It's like, man, get the ball out of his hands. Let somebody else beat you. Carry on him. Do not let them beat you. Get it out their hands. We've seen Luka do this too many times. And when I shot that goal, I was like, it's going in. I knew it.
It's funny. And it's funny because a guy like Luka, who people say is not athletic, he can't jump, whatever the case may be, he seems to get his shot over anybody. Like Rudy Gobert is 7'2", crazy wingspan. He put his hand up and wasn't even close to the ball. Like, I don't know how he does it. It's the footwork, obviously, but it's just like you give Luka that type of advantage, and it's going to end badly. It's going to end badly, regardless of what you try to do. It's going to end badly.
Like a must-win game, essentially, which is season virtually on the line. And now it's looking like, I mean, I won't never say never. I mean, we saw the other way around last series with the Nuggets here to win 2 in a row. I mean, I don't see a world where this feels this different. And you talked earlier about them being young. So let's talk about Anthony Edwards, right? A lot of people, I think gave the necessary props after his struggles in the first 2 rounds. Now it's a little different. He's being trapped, and if he's beating the defense, they got active bigs in the lane, as opposed to the Nuggets, who really didn't have any rim protection, and he's able to exploit that. Now you got the likes of Lively and Gafford, making it hard for him. We've seen the costly turnover when Nas Reed located and threw the ball out of bounds, which led to the
Yeah.
So all these things. Now, a lot of people were taking shots at Ant-Man, talking about, y'all trying to too fast. Y'all said he was Jordan. Hey, let's relax. Even Ant said, don't compare me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
There's a reason why players don't usually get to advance that far at his age of 22 years old, because it's a growing process. You have to go through the pains, you know what I'm saying, and overcome. And we see a lot of guys like who are superstars win their championship around like their 8th, 9th season. What is it, his 4th season, I think?
Yeah. So, I mean, people are trying to kill Ant, and nobody knows more about growing pains than the Celtics. Like, no one knows more about growing pains than the Celtics, right? So, looking at Anthony Edwards, he's just a young guy. Like, he's 22 years old. He's still, I think he's processing the playmaking part of the game and dissecting the defense and stuff like that. He's good at he's good at getting to the basket, making explosive plays. He's good shooting the basketball. He's good finding his own shot, incorporating his team, which he really needs to do this series. is something of a learning process. And it's definitely a different aspect when, as you said, Lively and Gafford are there. Whereas in the first 2 rounds, it was Nurkic, Durant, and then it was Joker and Aaron Gordon if you could get there. But those guys aren't blocking shots. Those guys aren't protecting the rim. So it's a little bit more difficult when teams are naturally set up, hey, we're taking away your drives. We're going to make you a shooter. And that's what Dallas has done this series. And it's worked.
Yeah, so I think that is going to, if they end up losing the series, because I do think they're going to do it, that's going to happen. So you're going to use that as motivation going into the next season. Plus, will be coming off in Olympics, first ever Olympics. They're going to be around like LeBron, Steph, their KD. That's going to rub up on him and everything. And you're going to use it as fuel to get back to this point and advance even further next season.
Yeah.
Cat, we can't let Cat go. Cat ain't young, man. What's Cat? Year 9? This guy is just playing like, oh my god. No, honestly, God's like, I tweeted after they beat the Nuggets, like, I can't believe Cat's really playing in the conference finals. I can't picture that. And now I'm seeing why.
He was big. He was big in Game 7 for them. He was big. Which was unexpected.
He took like what? He scored,
I think 15 points on 16 shot attempts yesterday. Not really engaged on defense. Silly fouls was really like a trend for him.
That's the biggest thing for me for Cat, because it's like, okay, the shooting is whatever. He took like 4 threes to start the game, which is like, okay, that's not a good omen, right? So you go through that, and then it's just picking up those silly fouls, and that's been something that's talked about. Ant-Man has gotten on him in press conferences, like, hey, we just need you to stop doing silly fouls. And it continues, and those things hurt his team, and especially those times when Dallas was attacking Rudy, and they kind of needed that switch in there, and especially with him and Naz Reid, the Timberwolves are depending on that lineup to score with Naz Reid and Karl Anthony Towns. They depend on them a lot. Naz Reid showed up yesterday. Phenomenal game from him. Phenomenal game. But Karl Anthony Towns...
Yeah, if they didn't play that way, they would have beat by 20.
That's the craziest thing, right? Like, Naz Reid...
7 and 9 from 3.
Yeah.
Cat got benched down the stretch of the game.
And rightfully so. Naz Reid is playing better. And that was something, that situation where they were kind of leaning on Naz Reid to kind of fill up those Rudy Gobert minutes, right? Like when Rudy was out of games and stuff like that and struggling, they would put Naz Reid in. And now it's Karl Anthony Towns. And Karl Anthony Towns, I think him and Ant-Man combined are shooting 30% for the series. They have not been good, and it's killing them. And Karl Anthony Towns, and especially where he's supposed to be the guy that's supposed to put force on the defense and provide all the spacing for everybody else, if he's not shooting the ball well, if he's not playing well, if he's not engaged, they're done. They have no shot. And that was an X factor, right? The front lines of both these teams. Like we thought, that's what I thought. I thought Rudy and Cat would outplay Gafford and Lively, and that has not been the case.
I am really shocked at how much impact Gafford and Lively having on the series. Their ability to constantly stay active, their athleticism, their length is like showing in the series. I didn't think it would be that much of an impact to this extent. Crazy. And they're always in the right spot, getting the lob from Kyrie or Luka or
Gafford had 10 in the fourth yesterday. Like what? It's crazy, man.
I don't think it was a push up on Conley. I think Conley acted a little bit, but that layup he hit afterwards was great.
Yeah. It's like those guys are paying dividends, right? Like the trade deadline that everyone talks about and the draft pick of Lively, those guys are paying dividends right now, providing the defensive impact, deterring guys from at the rim, and also just filling in the stat sheet, right? Getting blocks, rebounding, finishing lobs, crazy layups. Like that's an impact for Luka and Kyrie. Like those guys are legitimate offensive weapons. Like you wouldn't have thought that.
There's also with the touching, and these guys are just like, they're being rewarded for being in the right spot and making the happen that they make. It's crazy, man. Do you think Minnie goes up? Do you see a world where Minnie gets swept?
They're good enough. They shouldn't get swept. Like, they lost the last couple games by a couple points. They're right there. It's just the little mental mistakes that they're making. Yeah, it's just the mental mistakes, like the passing out of bounds by Ant-Man. Like, we can't have that. Karl Anthony Towns disappearing. We can't have that. So it's like, if those guys just play a little better, and think about how those guys are. Is in these games, and those guys are playing terribly. So it's like you guys just got to play marginally better than what you have been playing, and they have a better chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can really see a world where they get swept. I can see a 5-game series. I think a lot is gonna like ride on what happens in the Boston Pacers. We'll talk about next. Boston wins today and they go 3-0. I think that might motivate Dallas to try to close this game on the floor, make it like a real hard effort to close it on the floor. Get some rest for Luka, who's dealing with some ailments, right? To be ready to be as fresh as it could be for the finals. Because I think it starts on June 6th. So I see that happening. So I'm gonna go probably 5. Not a sweep. I think 5.
And if anybody should be motivated, it's Luka and Kyrie, because even though they've struggled at certain points in the game, it's like later in the game they've been able to find their way to win the game, right? Like they've been able to find their offense and lead their team to victory. So they should be motivated because it's like those guys can't stop us. And just to think, if PJ Washington's hitting his 3 like he did last series, this series, there's nothing Minnesota can do, right? So it's like you just need a little bit more effort, and Dallas is right there, and they're motivated. You can see, like, they're, like, I think Charles Barkley said it, like, at halftime on TNT. He said that second quarter surge towards the end of the quarter for Dallas was the difference in the game. And ultimately it was, because Minnesota was up, 18, 17? And then they cut it to 12. And it's like those little possessions, those careless turnovers that we've been talking about with Minnesota, those add up. And it did. It gave Dallas enough energy. Dallas came out right in the third quarter with a lot of their defensive intensity picked up. And that was the difference. And Minnesota couldn't match. Surprisingly, they're at home. That's the thing that I'm surprised about.
Exactly. And you talked about it with PJ Washington. Like, the series is going to shift to Dallas. You know a lot of real players play better at home. He's due for a big game. The team as a whole has been struggling for 3 in this series, I would say. Washington for a big game at home. You can have it like Hardaway Jr. going off the bench.
Green coming off, producing off the bench as well. That could become an avalanche. You know Luka and Kyrie are gonna come nonstop.
And I thought Jaden Hardy, even though he was a little erratic, I think just him being aggressive yesterday was a little bit of a boost for them at times. He was scoring a little bit at times for them. So now they're going on the road, and now you're looking at versus Minnesota, whose role players who have been playing well. They need their stars to step up. So that's what they definitely need in going to Dallas. They need Anthony Edwards to play better. They need Karl Anthony Towns to play better. They need those guys to lead them. And if they're not, it's over. It's over. Because, I mean, how much could you ask? I mean, how much can you ask from Naz Reid and Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander? Like, how much could you ask for those guys? They're playing all right. They're playing well. So, I mean, those two guys, Ant-Man and Cat, they got to lead the team.
Exactly. Yeah, Mike Conley had a good solid game yesterday, man.
I thought he was the difference. He was the difference. He was the difference in the Nuggets series. His play and his coming back, because I think he was out game 5 and he came back game 6 and 7. He was the difference in that Nuggets series. But you're relying on him now to go up against Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving in that backcourt, and it's like he's playing well, and you guys just need Ant-Man and Cat to play better. That's as simple as the series is to me. Those guys got to play better.
Yeah, and not just one of them. I think
Simultaneously, they got to play better.
Yeah.
I would, if I have to bet my money, probably put my money on Ant-Man actually like playing to his standards as opposed to Cat in this series. I just don't trust him, man. He's too comfortable out there on the perimeter.
And I'm fine with him on the perimeter, but he has to recognize that his shot's not falling. He's got to change it up. That's the one thing with me, because when he's hitting those threes, it changes the dynamic of their team. So I'm not gonna poo-poo him for shooting the 3. It's just your shot selection over the course of the game. Like, you have to realize how impactful that you can be on the floor and not just settle. There was even a couple floaters that he was shooting the other day. I'm like, yo, you gotta get to the basket and dominate over PJ Washington when you have those advantages. When they give you those advantages, you have to dominate.
exactly. Yeah. So I'm shocked so far
For how the series has played out, I would never in my world. I thought Dallas was gonna win game 1 and lose game 2. Going up 2-0 on the road this late in the playoffs is crazy. So we gotta see how the series unfolds. We can shift to the Eastern Conference. Your Celtics up 2-0 over the Indiana Pacers. News came out today that Tyrese Halliburton is out for Game 3 with the hamstring injury. This season has been really fortunate with all the things going on in the Eastern Conference.
Hey, KP has been out since what, Cleveland? Hey, man, we've been hurt too. Not to the degree, not to the degree of the Bucks or the Heat or the Pacers currently. Not to the degree of those guys, but hey, we're missing our guys too. But I mean, it's very unfortunate, right? Like those teams getting hurt, like it's crazy. It's crazy. Like I was talking to people, I'm like, there's been other teams that got into the finals that have benefited from injuries. I talk about the Warriors multiple times. The Lakers got to the Western Conference Finals last year with Ja Morant being out. Other teams have benefited, but not like it's crazy. It is crazy. Like it's like wow. Like I can't think of anything happening like this 3 rounds in a row. Like that's the crazy thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like on a scale of 1 to 10, right? How impressed are you with the Celtics during this playoff run?
Considering everything that's factor in everything that's transpired so far.
I'm at like a 7.5. Like they're doing what they need to do. Like you know what I mean? Like they took care of Miami in 5 games. It didn't go any longer. Thank God. They took care of Cleveland. It didn't go any longer. Thank God. And I feel like they're going to take care of the Pacers, and it shouldn't go any longer than 4 games. Thank God. So they're doing what they need to do. As their oppressive streak where they had to have crazy competition? No, but I do feel like this Pacers series is at least getting their offense ready. And because I think the Pacers' pace and play is putting a lot of pressure on their offense to be better. So I do like that. So I do like the impressive play from Jaylen Brown. Drew Holiday's playing well. Peyton Pritchard's playing well, at least offensively. So you're getting production from the guys that I think you need production from, and I feel like they can use the rest of this series to continue to bolster their offense because they're going to need it going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree with you saying because I mean, like just talking about injuries are part of the game. Believe it or not, they are. You can't really, you have no impact on what happens, right? With players getting injured. So it is what it is. And a lot of people I see, a lot of people do something they see, like, just like. Whenever the Celtics have a bad game or they lose a game like the game 2 they lost in the previous rounds and Kid not being aggressive enough. But they have like the sky falling down. I'm like, relax, it's okay. Honestly, I think they know that. No, I know. I really think that they are coasting and rightfully so because I mean they're running through the East all year. I think they know that their real test is going to be whoever comes out of the West and they play in the finals. Then they're going to ramp it up. Now you can say, is it bad not going to be tested until the finals? I would say it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad because they're professionals. They've been there before. You got Tatum and Brown who's been there like 6, 7 conference finals. They've both been to an NBA finals. So I don't think it's going to be to their detriment necessarily.
No, I don't. And that's how I've been feeling. It's like a lot of these Celtics fans are complaining, hey, why isn't Tatum playing better? Why isn't this happening? Why is Joe doing this? Why is Joe doing that? You're going to question everything. This is how I feel about Celtics fans who complain. You're going to complain about everything until they win. You're going to complain about everything until they win. And overall, it's like the Celtics would have blown a couple of these games, right? Like that we talk about, right? They almost blew game 1 against Indiana. So you're looking at that and it's like, are we seeing progression from the team? Are we seeing the team take care of business like they should? Like, I told people, like, people were saying, no, all these things should be sweep. Oh, we should sweep Cleveland. I'm like, well, Donovan Mitchell is a great scorer. Like, Cleveland is one of the better defensive teams in the league. Let's give them some type of credit. Even Miami. Miami has given us hell over the past couple years, since 2020. They're going to show up. They're going to junk up. Spo is a good enough coach. He's going to junk up the game and pull it out. And then they shot like crazy from 3.
that was like an historic performance from beyond the arc. Like, you have to take that
so look what it's taking to get one game off the Celtics. Crazy shooting performances. Great individual performances. Okay, that happens over the course of the playoffs because other teams are professionals, as you said. And they show up as well. So to drop a game here, I'm like, okay, whatever the case may be. I'm not worried about that. As I said, all I want to do is see little progressions throughout the team. Derek White played great against Miami. Jason Tatum woke up against Cleveland. Drew Holiday is shooting nearly 70% in this series. And he has been usually bad offensively in the playoffs historically. Like, he doesn't shoot great offensively. He does all the intangible things, but his offense hasn't really taken off like it should. He's shooting 70% in this series. That's a good sign. I'm taking that every time going forward. So the complaining that's happening, I understand to a certain degree, but it's like, let's look at the positives of actually what's happening. They're taking care of business. They're without Kristaps Porzingis. Other guys are getting in the game. Brissett played the other night. Continue to play him, Joe Mazzulla. Continue to play him because we're going to need him further down the line. And just take care of these series and get out of this series and get some rest. That's all I care about. That's all I care about.
No, I hear that. Kristaps Porzingis, as reported before the series started, he's going to be back midway through the series. But now with Halliburton out, they still win tonight, Game 3. They win Game 3.
Yeah.
Do you bring him back to the series, or do you just wait until the finals?
It's tough because that calf strain has bothered him before, I believe, earlier in the season. So you don't want to put any unwanted problems on that calf, especially with calf injuries. I think Jared Allen had the calf injury. No, he had a rib injury. Sorry, so I'm thinking of somebody else. But Kristaps Porzingis, that calf injury, you want to be careful with, of course. But if you can get him some type of those, I think Luke Cornett's going to be out. If you can get him some minutes there, just to get him out there and get some game time, I would rather do that rather than just going cold into the finals. But if the Celtics are taking care of business, I say rest him and get him ready for the finals. Make sure that he's ready for the finals. Whatever practices you have, make sure he goes through those, etc. But if the Celtics are taking care of business, it's going to give opportunity for other guys to play. Like Pritchard, Hauser hopefully found his shot. It's gone, missing since the regular season. So if other guys are able to step up and get their production going, that's going to be beneficial for the Celtics going forward, especially when KP comes back, because at least you know you can depend on those guys. Those guys are at least in the rhythm. If he's struggling or at any point, or if anybody else is struggling in the lineup, you can at least depend a little bit more further on your bench. So I say play it by ear. If he can go, I say just play him on limited minutes just so he can get some game time. That's the one thing I'm worried about. I just want him to be game time. I don't want to put him out there in the finals, kind of like the Warriors did to Kevin Durant, right? Like he wasn't playing, and then he just randomly got into the finals, and then he tore his Achilles. Playing great, but those type of things happen. So definitely a difficult decision, but I say you rest him if you need to and get the other guys ready. But Kristaps Porzingis is going to be better when he's coming back healthy.
I mean, I do think that they need him to win the series, the finals, whoever they play, coming out of the West. But again, you don't want to just have him jump right into the finals, going from 0 to 100. So, kind of give him some spots, some minutes, spots in this series. I think Game 4. If they win tonight, play him in Game 4 for 10, 15 minutes. I'm saying, in intervals, 5-minute intervals, whatever. Get them going and everything, because you get your game speed. You can't really replicate game speed in practice. You have to be out there in the court to get that real life game action. The Pacers, talk about them.
Put on a great performance in Game 1. They withstand 2 haymakers that something through with them.
You can argue they probably should have won Game 1, let the door open, and the Celtics just capitalized and got in there with a W. I didn't watch Game 2. I was at my cousin's graduation party, but from what I see, it just the level of talent this show where Boston was just superior. Then, of course, Halliburton gets hurt. That's kind of devastating too.
And Halliburton has, I don't think he's been right since that injury before the All-Star break, which kept him out a little bit. So, yeah, and he just they rushed him back to make the All-Star game because it's in Indianapolis and all that stuff. But I just feel like he hasn't been right, even when he's come back and he's playing well and he's getting his shot off and stuff like that. I don't think he's been his normal self as we saw earlier in the regular season. So. Definitely losing Halliburton hurts because it's like Indiana doesn't have a chance, right? Like when he goes down, when you think about their style of play, he's the first person that comes to mind. So with him being out, that sucks. It's tough for Indiana. People are saying that they faced the injured Milwaukee Bucks team. They dominated Milwaukee during the regular season. They faced the depleted Knicks team, which is true. But they got the job done. They took care of business. They showed up. They did what they needed to do. So I'm not going to kill their performance. And Siakam in this series is playing great. Like, Pascal Siakam's killing Al Horford. He's killing everybody who they put in front of him. So, I mean, Siakam is playing well, and they're playing with fight. Naismith is playing well for them. It's just like Halliburton not being there as that tempo pusher kind of takes their style away. Even though they're still going to try to continue to play fast, it takes their style away. So it's just unfortunate for them. But I think going forward, they just need to add around the fringes of their team, right? Like, if they had a guy like OG Anunoby, if they can find a guy that's a 3-and-D guy like that, Aaron Naismith is trying to be that, but if they can just find another level of guy like that, it changes their team completely. It's funny because they did have Bruce Brown, but I guess that just didn't work in terms of offensively, I think. I don't think he's the offensive player level and shooter that they need. But it's just like Indiana's trying what they can, and it's unfortunate that Halliburton got hurt. It's crazy that he had that injury randomly. It looked like a non-contact injury, but they always say those are the worst, especially with leg injury. So, just looking at Indiana, yeah. So, just looking at Indiana is just unfortunate, man, because they were on a roll, they were playing well, and they showed that they can score with the Boston Celtics. They're the number 1 team. Boston's the number 2 team in offense. So, looking at it from that standpoint, it's like the one thing that was keeping them even having a chance to win a game or 2 or whatever the case may be was Halliburton playing at a high octane level, and to take that out sucks for them, especially.
Yeah, I mean, with Halliburton out, you lose a shot creator for himself and others, tempo pusher. It just sucks. Like, he is the engine for that team. And without him, I don't see how they get a victory. I know they've been undefeated at their home all playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes to an end today, because I don't know what they're going to do.
No, I don't know, but and people were killing Carlisle for resting his guys with 9 minutes to go. I'm pretty sure he thought in his head, like, hey, the best chance for us to win a game is probably game 3. So I think that's what he was just looking ahead on that one. So I think that's what that was for him in that Indiana. Because people were killing Carlisle, and I'm like, I can kind of understand it. You're down 17 in the fourth quarter. Are you going to make a push without Halliburton? Are you going to... I think it was just like, let's get these guys ready for game 3. And I think that's what he did. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Man. Well, I mean, like I said, injuries are part of the game. It does suck. But at this time in the year, you want to see teams at full strength or, as close as possible to being full strength. Because everybody's dealing with knick-knack injuries at this point in their career. It's a long, grueling grind type season. So it is what it is, man. But it sucks.
Yeah, man.
So so you are seeing now. How many games do you think the Seas were going to win in originally? And I think right now, I was saying that you think it should be a sweep.
I said 6 because I thought Indiana's pace, that's difficult to play against. Like Phoenix, like when we think about those Phoenix teams, even though they had Nash and Stoudemire and stuff like that, around the team was kind of similar where you had role players that knew their role. And that's how they kept in series, is that pace. That pace is difficult to play with. Like, that's not something that's easy to play against. So I thought it was going to be 6 because I thought Indiana was going to be good enough to get a game in Boston and then win one at home, and then just ended up battle out in 6. But now that Halliburton's out, it's like I don't think T.J. McConnell can replicate that. I don't think Andrew Nembhard can replicate what Halliburton does, because they play a different style. Even though they play fast, it's completely different. It's completely different. So, I think it should be a sweep. I think the Celtics are going to come in, especially with Jaylen Brown's performance recently. You got Drew Holiday playing really well. So it's like those guys are going to come in, and I think Celtics are going to take care of business. This should be a sweep.
Yeah, man. It's funny you talking about like the pace and everything. Because I thought going to the series, probably be a tough thing for Horford to play in with this pace. You think he's a career? His advanced age, basketball age, I would say. Was a tough thing to play in this series. But now they're going to break now with Hallie being hurt, because I think that pace just like slows down tremendously without Hallie.
Those opportunities are dwindled. Those opportunities that they get to push and transition are dwindled because he just has a different style. But the Indiana's still going to play fast. They're still going to try to replicate that because that gives them their best chance. But I just don't know. I just don't know if that's going to replicate into a win. I just don't. Right now, without Halliburton, no.
I mean, if they were to win a game, I think, my social media is going to go crazy. These fans are going to go crazy if safe roll this game three tonight. Or even game 4.
Oh
And
man.
then to winning at 5. Like, whatever.
It's like please Celtics, just take care of business so I don't have to hear from the disgruntled Celtics fans waiting to pounce on a loss. That's all I'm hoping for.
So we're gonna wrap it up here. But are you working on an episode coming up anytime soon?
We just dropped our for our wrestling podcast. We just dropped our predictions for King of the Ring, which happened today. So that there's a couple of videos out today on my YouTube. My next episode, I'm just looking because it's like I wanted to do something, but it's like now that the Celtics are probably looking like a sweep, it's like I don't know if there's enough meat on the bone there to try to delve into that. Maybe some Jason Tatum rhetoric, where everyone's killing Jason Tatum. But overall, just looking, it's probably just my eyes are on the Western Conference. So probably after Game 3 of the Minnesota Dallas series, I'm probably going to try to review that and go after that. So might try to invite you on and try to get something going there.
Yeah. Let me know.
But yeah, just keeping it rolling with the playoffs, man.
All right, man. So yes, again, my man Daniel Daly's podcast, the Basketball Soapbox. You can find it at your podcast at and see it on YouTube. My guy, I do appreciate you, man. We'll talk about these games later for today and tomorrow and Monday, and yeah, keep me updated on the pod. I'll come on.
Oh, sweet, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir, brother. Take care.